to Speed Scene Live, the #1 online drag racing TV show and the only show dedicated to the sportsman racer. Brought to you by Curry Rear Ends, M&H Tires, Hedman Hustler Headers, Aeromotive Fuel Systems, and TheFote.com. With your hosts, Diana Might, Bruce Barker, Scott Lucky Hudson, Alex the Cargirl Rosio, Hot Rod Bob Beck, plus Dar Hawthorne and Donnie Couch.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Speed Scene Live, coming to you live and direct, high atop the Speed Scene Live building in North Hollywood, California. I'm Hot Rod Bob Beck. Along with me tonight, as always, working the board is Bruce Barker.
Hey, who's our gaffer? Who's our... I don't have a light on me tonight, Bob.
We're non-union. We get to do it all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Get over here. Well.
Get my son in here to do the lighting for us, but I think he wants to. He makes more than I do, so forget it.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that kind of math just doesn't work, does it?
No, it doesn't. Hey, folks, Lucky and Dynamite are out on assignment. Lucky is actually driving cross-country right now with the Speed Scene Live truck and trailer, headed down to do some racing in Kentucky. He's going to Bowling Green. Mm-hmm. He's going all over the U.S., going to drive his Nova and have some fun. He'll be reporting back to it. We may even get a call from him on the road tonight.
That would be sweet. Hey, yes. I should point out, too, speaking of events in other places, which you, by the way, were just speaking of.
Yes.
That Big Swag, Brett Wagner, our friend from Pastime, was here yesterday doing some voice work for Independence County Off-Road.
Oh, yeah.
That's my best Brett Wagner right there.
Yeah.
But Swag was also talking about the fact that he's going to be cruising to, I believe it's Jonesboro, Arkansas this weekend for a couple of days. I think it's Friday and Saturday for the Riding the Ridge event. I think I've got that right. So
yeah. All right. He's going to be busy. He travels all over the place. We hardly catch him here in town, but when he's in town, he comes here.
That's right. Be there.
Sounds good. Be there.
Or be here.
Hey, we've got some special things going on for you tonight. We're going to have John Matijasic, I believe, calling in, talking about what happened at Eagle Field just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think we got some fresh video from Eagle Field just a couple of weeks ago.
That was kind of cool, and we'll see what video he sends. Yeah. Then we're going to have Larry Spoerlein coming to us live from VC Rides, going to be talking to us about his first time going to West Coast Customs Cruisin Nationals.
Man, I can't wait to see some of those images.
They are cool. And in studio with us tonight, if you've read Hot Rod, Carcraft, or a myriad of other magazines, you've read things done by Jeff Smith, and Jeff Smith is here with us tonight. How you doing, Jeff?
Excellent. Thanks for the invitation. This is going to be fun.
Good. You put a whole passel of magazines on the table here, and we were thumbing through one of them, and you said these get given out at trade shows and such. This one's the one that I picked up first. And I opened through. I got to get a shout out because you did a story, sheet metal canvas, and this is Troy's car. And
the 53 Ranch Wagon.
53, it is amazing. He's a Ventura guy. He just did a bunch of work on my car for me. But as you said, you were walking around and saw this car at the SEMA show. And if you ever see this car, you will notice it immediately because it's fat.
What, can you show that? Can you show the photo again, Bob?
I can show that again.
The photos really don't do it justice. That was a drive-along shot. But the first thing you notice about this car is you walk up to it and go, "There's something not right about this." And because what happens is it's wide, it's fat, yes. And so at the show, walked out I was going someplace else and walked by this car, and stopped and looked at it and said, "There's something not right about this car." and he had a little screen in front of her, a little tag, and the first thing it said was widened 4 inches. No, wait, stop right there. Widened 4 inches? How do you do that? How do you do that? And he proceeded to tell me in no small detail about how he had done that. And it's just an astonishing story. The sheet metal work on it is amazing. Just amazing.
And Troy's got a shop in Ventura called Full Scale Hot Rods.
Yeah.
And he does a whole bunch of different things. We're actually going to be talking about an installation he did on my car in a few weeks with an aluminum cooling system that really did a heck of a job in taming my car.
I suspect this will be the key word of the night, that being why, because, Jeff, why in the world would they widen a car 4 inches?
Well, it was the story he told me it was actually a customer's idea. He had this 53 Ranch wagon, and he had this crashed Corvette. and he said, let's put the ranch wagon over the Corvette. So you could either narrow the track width, which is not going to be easy, or you can widen the car, which is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
So he chose perhaps the more difficult version, but he widened it, when the car just looks fantastic. It's one of those classic cars that you really have to see in person to appreciate it, because you start looking at the details, like in the grill work and all this stuff, and thinking, how did he do this?
Yeah, it almost looks like he just stretched it.
Yeah.
Proportions are there. You can see that it's wider, but like you're saying, the grill, for example, it looks like a stock grill.
It looks like a stock grill, but
fits the hole.
But you look at the seams in it, and there are 5 as opposed to 4 on each side.
And you got to know that.
Yeah, and I asked him, how'd you do this? He's put it there. So he left the center part, and he widened it on opposite sides of the center, and then had to widen the bumper, front and rear, and then had to shorten or lengthen, the wheelbase of the Corvette chassis in order to make it work.
Yeah.
It's amazing, just amazing.
And you were talking about the rear window, how he made himself a template to figure out what it was and what it would be, and then he finally found a customer comes in with a Dodge pickup truck.
And he can see it from this. He could see it from his shop. The truck was probably 20, 30 feet away, and he could see the radius and thought that might be right. Latest template on there was perfect.
Well, that's amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen the latest Mad Max movie.
No.
But Fury Road, there's a 59 Cadillac, and it sort of ties into what we're talking about, because what it appears to be is one 59 Cadillac on top of another one, but one of them is either widened or the other one is narrowed, because you can see there it's an unclear photo here.
Either that or it was a rear-end collision. It was going really fast.
Maybe that was it, and it split the one in front.
Yeah.
But I was watching that film. I was going, what is that? Because one's wider than the other. How do you do that?
Well, it's not just what. Why?
Well, in this case, it's a movie that makes millions of dollars. That's a pretty good why for me.
But Cadillac in Australia, though. I mean, they did film it down there again, right?
Yeah, they did. It's filmed there, and as well, I think, in a tropical country. I don't know, Morocco or something.
Yeah, no sense filming it all in Australia when you can have a vacation and work at the same time.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, back to Jeff. Jay, you're well, I see you at Irwindale all the time running your Chevelle. But
the orange Chevelle, yeah.
Yeah, the orange Chevelle, but you have been in the magazine business for decades.
Yeah, I started with CarCraft in '79. It was really the culmination of an idea that I had when I was about 12 years old to go work for the magazine.
Wow.
It was funny, I just went through my high school reunion, 40th high school reunion a while back, and a friend of mine said, we were sitting in this one classroom, and he said, do you remember what you said in here? We were in 8th grade together. And he said, do you remember what you said in here? And I went, no, I don't even remember being in this room. And he goes, you don't remember what you said? And I said, no. So we went around the class, and the instructor, it was towards the end of that year, school year, and she wanted to know what our plans were when we graduated high school and moved on. And everybody had these, things they wanted to be a professional baseball player or whatever. And he said, "You don't remember what you said?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You said you wanted to be the editor of Hot Rod magazine." I was 13 years old. I honestly, I have to rely on his memory, but I know that. And here's the spooky tie-in. Jim McFarland's a really good friend of mine. He was the editor of Hot Rod magazine in 1968 when they did their 20th anniversary issue. 48 was the first year of Hot Rod magazine. I was the editor of Hot Rod for the 40th anniversary issue. And I did, in that particular English class, that's the one we were talking about, I had to do a research paper, and it was on the history of hot rodding, and I used Jim's 20th anniversry Hot Rod magazine as my primary research tool.
That is so weird, man.
Well, it's spooky. I mean, the connections are just bizarre. But I worked for my grandfather when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old in a gas station, and I would read Hot Rod magazine, and he would say, "How many times you read that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 times."
Pages aren't worn out yet.
Yeah, and he said, "You learn anything?" And I said, "Absolutely, absolutely. Every time I read, I learn something new." And so I just I never gave up on it, really, and went to college to get a degree in journalism so I would have a shot at the magazine.
Oh, that's cool. Now, you were born and raised in the Valley?
In Iowa. I grew up in Iowa. So I went to Iowa State University, in fact, just a real quick story. My best friend in college got a degree work in mechanical engineering, went to work for Chrysler, and how sharp this guy is, Don Young. And he, within about a year of working for Chrysler as a brand new fledgling engineer, was in the race group. That's how sharp this guy is. And so a shout out to my buddy Don. And so through him, I met Larry Shepard, who was the magazine liaison guy for Mopar. For the Mopar Performance people. At that time, it was Direct Connection.
Right.
And I met him right after I graduated college and said, Larry, you're my closest person that I know that has met those guys. What's your recommendation? I want to go work for the magazine. I want to go work for CarCraft. And he tried to talk me out of it. Said it'll never happen. And so I never gave up on it. And but through Larry, I found out that Al Kirschenbaum was leaving CarCraft magazine to go work for Hot Rod. And I called him up out of the blue, got him on the phone, and he talked to me for an hour, and the rest is history. Rick Vogelin hired me because Rick was the editor at the time, and Rick hired me in April of 1979, and it's all been downhill after that.
Well, now you Jeff brought along some photos, and I would assume that there's a story behind each one of these.
Oh yes, You want to start with this one?
Yeah.
Okay. The story. This was a shoot that we did for CarCraft about 4 years ago, I think 5 years ago, as barn finds. That's a '67 Z28 that I own. Ooh. And the story behind that is we moved out here in '79. My then future wife needed a car, and she wanted a little red Mustang. And being a Chevy guy, I didn't want to buy a Mustang. I didn't want to work on a Mustang. So I talked her into buying this Camaro. And it was, at the time, what we thought was a 327 Power Glide car. Mm-hmm. And the story's way too long. It would fill up this entire hour to tell you the entire story. But in essence, it is a '67 Z28 with the original motor.
Wow!
It had been repossessed and went back on a used car lot. And then this woman bought it in '69 and kept it until '79. And sold it to a friend of the family for $500. Wow. He put an Earl Scheib paint job on it, covered up the stripes, still had the original motor in it. By this time, the 4-speed was gone. There was a Power Glide in it, and a cast iron intake manifold, and a quadrojet.
Oh.
But and a 327 style camshaft. So this thing, now you have 11.1 compression 302 with a short duration camshaft, rattle its brains out. We bought it anyway because I thought he just did over advanced timing. And then it took about another 2 years before we realized what we had, because this was 1979 and nobody was doing muscle car restorations back then.
Sure.
And so it took, Chevrolet steadfastly, I have a letter that says we never built Z28s in the Van Nuys plant in 1967, which was, of course, untrue.
Right.
Because this car was built in the Van Nuys plant in 1967. So I still have that car. And it's looking for a new home.
Attention, Speed Seed Live viewers.
Did you put the 4-speed in?
The car doesn't even have a motor in it right now. I took the motor eventually spun a rod bearing after it rattled so badly, and so I still have all the pieces to put it back together. I need to reassemble it, but because that's probably the easiest way to get rid of it would be just to reassemble it, not restore it, but just put it back together and then sell it.
That does help.
Yeah, because you go from a big pile of parts to one car, and it would also clean up my shop quite a bit too, because I got parts scattered all over the place for this thing.
All right, the next car you just pulled up, Bruce, is a Chevelle.
That's my '65 Chevelle. I had a V6 Vega about 20 some odd years ago that I traded for this car. One of my best deals ever.
Yeah, you did.
And it at the time had a turbo 400, a 400 small block Chevy and a turbo 350 in it, and it has evolved into an autocross / road racer. This was at the about 4 years ago at the Virginia City Hill Climb. That's a very fun event. Scary. Way scary. There's video of I don't have any video of my car, but there's videos in-car cockpit videos that I watched before I went up there to run the car, and there are several turns on this. It's about a 5-mile course, 3.5-mile course. You climb about 1,500 feet. You start at something like 5,000 feet and go to like 6,500.
Wow.
This is Virginia City. And this is a normally aspirated 420 small block in this thing, and it was a pig. And I let the clutch out on the first lap. What's wrong with this thing? And then I realized, wait a minute, we're at 6,000 feet. It lost 100 horsepower. Anyway, so there are several corners on this course where there are no guardrails. There are no guardrails, and the drop-offs are 300, 400, 500 feet.
So it's like Old Pikes Peak, but paved.
Yeah. paved.
Oh, man.
And so it's a little scary. So it's one of those risk reward kind of things.
Yeah.
So what you do is you don't risk it all, because the reward is, gee, you went fast, but the risk is enormous. And actually, a guy got killed up there the year we were there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So it's a hoot. It's a lot of fun. I did it 2 years in a row. I broke both times. So I have yet to finish that event. So I want to go back up and run that thing one more time, just to say that I could complete the event and bring it home in one piece.
Yeah.
But that car is at a part right now where we're redoing the front suspension. I've known Doug Norden at Global West forever.
Oh, yeah.
Back when it was Global West Alignment Specialties, his shop was the size of the studio, and he had a little Formula Ford racer when I met him. And great guy, and we've used that car. He's used that car. He now has his own little 65 GTO that he uses as his development car.
Yeah, with the blower on it.
Well, he took the blower off because it was problematic, but that car is fast now. He's just come out with an aluminum. I don't think I'm letting anything out of the cat out of the bag here, but an aluminum spindle for that car.
Really?
Yeah. And as soon as I can get mine back together, I'm going to get it out there so we can put a spindle on my car.
Oh.
But because right now I still got the old school Chevelle, or actually it's a B-body spindle on that thing from way back in the day when Marlon Davis did the knuckle sandwich story. Way back in Hot Rod, this is like, we're talking like 1985. So it's got coilover shocks and a Lingenfelder 420-inch small block in it. It's a hoot to drive. It's a lot of fun.
I can imagine.
And so we terrorize the streets with that thing every once in a while. So.
All right, we have got someone that's called in, and we're going to switch over to him right now. The Magic Man. I met John decades ago when I was doing circle track stuff, and he was the program director for a local radio station. He's moved on, and now he's the official announcer for Eagle Field. And John, you on the phone?
Yeah, I sure am.
Well, good.
Yeah, Mike Lewis always said I was the only radio guy that lasted more than one race in drag racing. After 24 years at Auto Club Famosa Raceway, I'm hanging out in South Dos Palos, better known as Firebaugh and Eagle Field.
Yeah, and you guys put on a great event. I haven't heard anything negative about that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what went on this year?
Oh, man, what we were supposed to run the 15th, 16th, and 17th of May, but it rained. So we had to call off our Friday and the billet. And so we did that drag racing thing, and we made 2 days into 3 and ran our billet race on Saturday night. Had a little over 300 cars. Just unbelievable stuff. General Jerry Lee and Handsome Haas Lee brought out their wheel standers that had been in the barns for 42 years. A pair of old Ford pickups, and they wheel stood on our piece of Walmart parking lot and just thrilled the fans. And our good buddies Randy Wrinkle and Stormy and everybody put on a tremendous show of high-powered cars side by next, burning tires on both sides, including Lori Peterson and the Pop Fin Blower Special. And, of course, Rocky Phillips and Lee Phillips with the Evil Twin.
Did he get that thing to finally go straight?
Oh, man, did it go straight. I don't know if you guys got the video, but, yeah, Lee fired up the tires and just burned them all 660 feet. And Rocky, at the end of the day on Sunday, finally jumped in, and he ran it into the cat box at the end of the track because he wanted to.
Well, because the first time he
put real drag racer turned promoter.
Yes, the first time he put that thing together, he came down to Irwindale for Moon Eyes. And he was going to do a smoky burnout, and he did, but it was in a 360-degree type of burnout as he spun completely around.
That was one of the great drag racing pirouettes of all time.
And he didn't touch anything. I mean, he missed the walls and everything, but there were more skid marks in his shorts after that than there were on the track.
I think they probably had to be changed. We've both been there many times to see that, and Rocky does not forget that.
No.
It was just a great time. I mean, just tons of folks, nice folks. They've got their fly-in dinner coming up the middle of June at Eagle Field. Go to eaglefield.net. And it's World War II reenactments. We've got a reconditioned B-25 coming in that was in service in World War II.
Wow.
It was not an old surplus one. all kinds of guys flying, all kinds of great World War II airbirds, and we have a great dinner in the hangar and a big band and a dance and all that. And I do believe that's 13-14 June or 14-15 June. Let me run back to my calendar here. It's 13-14 June. Okay. And then October 2 and 3, we do our finals, our final race at Eagle Field for the season, which I'll tell you, Bob, we've got gassers coming like you've not seen for years. We had a 52 Chevy in pearlescent green called Kryptonite.
Oh, there you
with
go.
White wall.
There you go.
I mean, there's some stuff, and brother, you got to come up to Eagle Field when you get the chance, because there is nothing like Eagle Field. And of course, you can go to quartermileproductions.net and see all the archive and live streaming, and we do the deal. So, the middle of June, coming up for the fly-up, and October 2-3, come see us at Eagle Field. It's just like nothing else, and, the only thing we're missing is dragster, Bob.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like about Eagle Field is it's old-school racing completely. There is no VHT. There is no
coaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's old-school racing at its best. It is true nostalgia-type racing. Yeah, yeah.
Although we did invest in a timer. They built me a tower, Bob.
I noticed that. You don't have to stand outside anymore.
No. It was the back of a 6x6 with a camouflage net over.
Right. Yeah.
You got the funniest sunburn at the end of the weekend. There were little spots all over.
I got a question for you. We got a car. We're showing a car right now pulling up to the staging lights, and it's smoking quite a bit. Was this thing a diesel-powered coupe?
Yes.
Oh,
and it's
man.
Flat. It's Brown's diesel, I do believe, in Dos Palos. And the thing just hauled the mail, man. I mean, he tacked that thing up, and it blows smoke like a freight train down the 8th mile, and just flew. I gave him best modified car of the weekend because it was just too dang cool. I mean, we see even my friend Dennis Young from Australia had his Anglia there. Yeah. Not only did the car run, but he beat some people.
Really?
He was in a happy Aussie.
Dennis actually got it down the track.
Down a track and ahead of somebody else. It was impressive.
Hey, John, thank you very much. And where can they check out on this? Is the website again?
Well, you can go to eaglefielddrags.com. Okay. That's for all the drag racing stuff. You can go to eaglefield.net, which is where you find out about the World War II flying in reenactment, dinner, big band, all that kind of stuff. And then we're back October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You can get that at eaglefielddrags.com. You want to watch what we do, you go to quartermileproductions.net and watch the archive.
All right, fantastic, John. I'm going to try and make it up there in October. We'll see if we can do that. You're what, the week before or the week after Hot Rod Reunion?
I think it's the week before. It's
a good warm-up. Good.
Hot Rod Reunion's the next one. You'll be free. I'll save a stool for you, brother. Come on up.
Sounds good. All right, John. Hey, thanks for calling in. We got to move on. We got some sponsors.
Hey, have a great evening, Bob.
All right, take care, John. Thank you very much.
I couldn't miss that GT40 there.
Oh,
too.
man, no, yeah.
Wild. Yeah.
Oh, man. I can't wait to see the new one. I guess they're going to have that on display at the Peterson.
Oh.
Consider the until it's released, it's going to be the only place on display is going to be at the new Peterson when it opens up.
Dang, man. Well, that'll be something to see, as well as just the new Peterson when it opens up all by itself.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with, well, as Lucky would say, more. Speed
yes.
with Hot Rod Bob every Tuesday night on Cruisin Live.
M&H Tires, makers of racing tires that give you the best bite for the buck. You've paid a lot for that horsepower. Make sure you use it all. M&H Tires has the best compounds available for maximum traction. Go to mandhtires.com. That's mandhtires.com. Buy direct and save at the website and mention the Speed Scene for a 5% discount. That's right, mandhtires.com. Call them at 661-324-4773. M&H Tires has tech guys ready to answer your questions or to recommend the best tire for you, slicks or DOT. M&H Tires has it all. M&H were the first to create racing tires for muscle cars and also the first to create racing tires for sport compact cars. Legendary M&H Tires. Shop online, mention the Speed Scene, and save 5%. Get the best racing tires, great personal service, and save 5%. Go to mandhtires.com or call them at 661-324-4773. MNHTires.com.
Welcome back to Speed Scene Live, the #1 online drag racing TV show. Brought to you by Curry Rear Ends, M&H Tires, Hedman Hustler Headers, Aeromotive Fuel Systems, and theFote.com.
All right, welcome back. I'm Hot Rod Bob Beck, and you've got gas for a whole hour this week. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what. We've got some fun times here. With us in studio, Larry's on the phone. Stay there, Larry. Don't move. I got Jeff Smith. I got names. I'm looking at Larry's name over there. Got Jeff Smith in studio tonight with us. He has got an extensive history writing for magazines, Carcraft, Hot Rod, and we've got about 10 different magazines sitting on the desk now that you're writing for. Tell us a little bit about those, would you?
Yeah, it's Acceleration Media, Power Performance News. They called me about a year ago and said, come work for us. So I do a lot of mostly the technical stuff for them. So I'm their technical writer. So we have Drag Racing Scene, OneDirt.com, Power Performance News, Street Rods for Life. So it's a bunch of different titles. So,
jeez, Jeff, how do you
it's a lot of fun.
How do you keep them straight? That's the A part of the question. And
yeah,
B,
well, that's why I brought the magazines with me. Because if I had to do this, off the cuff, it would be difficult. I could get through Power Performance News and Street Rod Life, then I'm.
But I'm thinking too, you're writing for all those magazines, and I know some of them are regular gigs where you're submitting at a defined time every week or every month or whatever. Mm-hmm. Where do you sleep?
Well, it's interesting. I've had several people ask me, after 35 years, how do you run out of ideas? And you really never do, because what happens is one story builds three more. Or you think you know where this story is headed, and it goes in a slightly different direction, and you think, well, I could take this other idea that I didn't get a chance to really cover and go deal with that. So it really is a bottomless pit. I'm probably working on, it sounds ridiculous, but 25 or 30 stories simultaneously. Wow. And I just, and so it's crazy. And it's like when my kids were growing up, they would come home and their teacher would say, "They did the homework, never turned it in." How could you do the work and never turn it in? And yet I do that all the time. I finish a story and then I just put it on the to send pile and then never do. And then I realized I was like, I'm at the end of my deal here, and I'm too short. And I realized, no, I'm not. So it's a juggling act, So. Because you used to have managing editors to keep you honest, but now I have to do everything. So, but it's fun. I really do enjoy it, and my commute is wonderful. I go from my back door to my shop in about 35 steps, where I used to have to drive 35 miles down the 405 freeway every day.
Down to Wilshire.
Well, Wilshire when it was 6420, and then we went to El Segundo, which is down south of the airport.
That's even worse.
It's across through the intersection of the worst intersection freeways in the world, which is the 101 and the 405. So.
And of course, that widening project helped for about 60 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, until the cars started hitting it.
Yeah, until the cars.
Right.
Yeah, once Caltrans got it out of the way, then the cars came on there and they found out it didn't work.
Right.
Whoops.
Yeah.
A few billion. What's a few billion?
All right, we're going to switch gears right now, and we're going to talk about the West Coast Customs event, Cruisin Nationals, and we have a person who was there for the first time, photographer extraordinaire from VC Rides, Larry Spoerlein.
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Doing good. You still awake?
I'm awake. I'm good.
Good. Hey, we got some great shots from you. This was your first time ever going up to the Cruisin Nationals. As a hot rodder, I mean, you got some neat machines. We're talking about your van, and you've got this killer Toyota Celica. What did you think of the Cruisin Nationals?
Well, you know what? We went up there on a Friday night, and for the cruise night.
Yeah.
And, man, that cruise night was awesome. And, you know, I grew up in Ventura, and in the early days I was cruising Main Street in Ventura. So seeing that cruising event just brought all those memories back, and I just thought that was awesome. And, you know, I got there and I was like, wow, I should have been coming here all along. So, yeah, that's a heck of a show. And then the show afterward the next day, seeing all the rides there was very overwhelming. A lot of cars and a lot of good people.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Penny's West Coast Kustoms Cruisin Nationals, it's the place to be for all the top customs in the West Coast for the most part. And you see everything there, chop tops, lead sleds, sectioned cars. There was even a hot rod cover car from the 50s built by Valley Customs outside that was just totally restored and beautiful. What was your favorite car? Forget the Batmobile. What was your favorite car out there? I mean, I'm looking at your photographs, and it was just great.
Yeah, you know what? I like them all. I don't really have a favorite. I really just dig them all. And I tell you, one thing did stand out to me was the cruise night Friday night.
Yeah.
There was an ice cream truck, a patinaed old ice cream truck cruising. That just made me laugh. So I got a kick out of that.
Well, there were some great cars out there. And for those of you who have not been to West Coast Customs, Cruisin Nationals, they block off the main street through Santa Maria on Friday night. And anyone who's entered the show can cruise. And it is 2-3 solid hours of cruising. And it's some of the best customs in the country are out there.
Yeah, I thought the way the police organized that and everything, the way the city got together to make that happen, I thought that was awesome. I like to see that cruising tied in with more car shows. It kind of reminds me of the down in Orange County, the Cruisin' for a Cure, how they mixed a little cruising route in with the car show. I think that's a great thing.
Well, then the cruising is a mainstay. Now, we've got a picture of this Catamino that you took that was inside the building with us. It is an amazing. It started out, I guess, as a 59 or 60 El Camino, and it's all Cadillac body parts now. The hood opens forward. It's got a solid plexiglass headlight on it.
I get you.
And what you can't see is the roof is also plexiglass.
Oh, man.
Or glass, Corning glass. But it's the exact replica of the steel roof. It's just not steel. But this car is an amazing machine. Now, you were there for Friday for the cruise night and Saturday for the show.
Yes.
And being in Ventura, we don't get to see these customs all that much. I mean, most of the guys in the Southern California area, for the most part, that we see are hot rodders and muscle car guys. This is a total contrast to that.
Yeah, you know what? It's like there was cars from all over California there. A lot of cars I've never seen before. And I tell you, if anybody wants to go to a show and see it all, that's the show to go to.
Yeah, you got to see custom cars. You got to see old Frenched taillights, Frenched headlights, chopped tops, sectioned, fadeaway paint jobs, pearl paint jobs. Now, Larry, you take photos at many shows each weekend. You're at a show just about everywhere. If someone wanted to see pictures of the shows that you've gone to, where would they go?
You can go to my website, vcrides.com, and I also have a VC Rides Facebook page, and I post photos there and upcoming events. But all the pictures I do post on the website. And there's a lot of shows there. And, you know, I was going to shows back in the early 80s, and I have some old shows from way back then that I posted. And just a lot of car show pictures on there, and it's been a lot of fun.
And now you take hundreds and hundreds of pictures. Now, you're a hot rodder, so you're kind of our grassroots guy out here tonight. Tell the folks about, well, you got your van we talked about. You're going to resurrect that, but you've got a hot Toyota.
Yeah, I got back. That's my midlife crisis car there. That's
You're not that old,
I got a
Larry.
74. Yeah, I'm gonna be 50 this year, and that's a '74 Toyota Celica. I used to have one when I was younger in high school, and I always wanted that Camaro and everything. And I almost bought like a '69 Camaro when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And my mom wouldn't let me have that car, and then I found out I could get a Toyota Celica and hop up the motor, put a couple of carbs on there, have some fun with it. So I got a Celica, and I had a lot of fun with that when I was younger, and then I found another one, which is now my '74, and I've restored that to be like an old Toyota rally car.
Now, what engine did you put in that? Because we were talking about that when you were doing the swap, and you had to figure things out because it's typical hot rod ingenuity. What did you do to that baby?
Yeah, I had a little 18RC motor in there, so I wanted to put a twin cam motor in there, which was an 18RG that they didn't import here in California. So I couldn't find one. So I put a 20R motor, and I got it, trying to put it in, and realized, hey, this thing don't fit right. So I had to redo the cross member. Troy at Full Scale Hot Rods in Ventura, he helped me out on it, and we cut the cross member and redid that. We had to remodify the motor mounts, and a few tweaks, a torch, and we made it work, and it looks really clean in there. It came out real good, and just having fun with it.
And you cruise with that all over the place. I know when what's the show? The Ventura Nationals used to be Primer Nats. You were out there at the opening party one night, and that thing is just that little Toyota is cool. We see you at the cruise night. I go to occasionally we'll go to Foster Freeze, and I'll see you there at the cruise night.
Yeah, I got to change it up with all these hot rodders. I got to change it up with an old Toyota.
You're giving them culture. You're expanding their horizons.
Oh, I like that.
So now, if someone goes on your website and they find a photograph that they want, what can they do?
They can go on there, and all the information is there, Bob. They can go on there, and they can go through and find the photo. They can download the photo there, and they can go back to the different years, car shows, cruise nights, and racing events. I also do racing events and autocross photos. And they're all on there, and they can go right there and find the event and download it.
All right, so vcrides.com or VCRides on Facebook, and they can find them all there. Now, you're going to go back to West Coast Customs next year?
I am, Bob.
Oh,
that was awesome. Yeah, I will be back out there shooting again. It was a great show, and I would tell anybody that I see, say they got to go.
Oh, and then we also saw you shooting at the Hot Rod Reunion and March Meet this last year.
Yes, I'm also at those events, and that's another event. I went to that. A lot of Ventura guys told me to go to that show and the racing out there, and I went out there and fell in love. And I'm like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? So I go there year after year now and shoot photos there on the line.
Yeah, we got a shot of you. We got a shot you just took here, Kevin Homard at Fontucky. That was a cover car, I believe, for CarCraft.
That looked like a Carter paint job. It probably could very well have been.
Yeah, Bill Carter. He still doing paint.
Yes.
All right, Larry, tell me what is your favorite photo?
My favorite photo. Well, I like the photos with the pinup girls.
Oh well, yeah, for obvious reasons.
Pinup girls by the cars. That's always fun. I do like those.
Yeah. That's not one of them we got on screen now, though. I hope he's not a pinup girl.
I think I like the photo of the couples cruising there. I think there's a photo you have there with the couples, and I forget. I think it was a wagon there. And a guy sent me a text, and he said, "Man, Larry, thank you for getting that shot. My daughter was with me in the front seat of that car, and he just loved it." Cool. And I think that photo is on your slideshow there.
All right, well, we'll see if we can find it.
There is one, too, that intrigued me. I think we got a big Merc here. Look at the driver and the passenger in that. Yeah. That's the perfect shot.
The hair. I mean, and the colorization you've done. I don't know, how you did it, but, man, these colors look amazing.
They pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a lot of time on the computer, but I really enjoy making those photos pop. I think that's I love the colors and just getting the colors out there and bringing it all out from the paint jobs.
Yeah, and you definitely brought out, I mean, none of these cars had stock paint jobs. They all had, metallics, pearls, and you name it, it was there. And the way the way you've worked these photos, the colors are just amazing. The shot at the Santa Maria Inn that we're looking at right now, that very famous 57 Ford Coupe with chop top and a beautiful second-generation F100. One of the square 100s. Those are the gold paint on that thing. You've definitely made it look better than it does in person, although it's a beautiful car in person. Just the colorization that you've done is just amazing. And so
I like to emphasize those colors.
Yeah, you definitely have. So again, if you'd like a photograph, you want to see some of the shows, your car may be. If you were at Cruisin Nationals this year, Larry took hundreds of shots, and your car may be on his site, vcrides.com. That cool? That where they can go?
That's where they can go, VC Rides. Thanks a lot, Bob.
All right, Larry. Thanks for calling. Thank you for calling in. Love the photographs. We'll see you at another show soon, I'm sure, or a cruise night up in Ventura area.
You will. I'll be out there shooting photos.
All right, go get some sleep. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Larry.
Take care.
Oh man,
he does some great photographs. He's got a picture of my coupe as we were going to Ventura Nationals. They were having an opening house. He caught me just coming around the corner. It's just a little bit past dusk. The headlights are on, and he's got my car popping. I mean, it is just it looks a whole lot better than the Earlshire paint job really does.
Hey, speaking of Earlshire paint jobs, I think let's take a look. We got to get back to Jeff because there's so much to talk about. But I wanted to show a couple of these things. I bid farewell today to a car.
Oh yes, our hearts are heavy.
Yeah, it's been part of my life for quite a long time. I'm looking for the Earlshire paint job shot. There's one.
Oh my gosh,
there's one. It was a '68 Mustang with a '67 Bronco underneath. And this thing, we built it in Alaska in the early 80s. And it was just one of those things. We'll zip through some photos really quick.
Oh, gosh, that thing is tall.
Yeah. And that was to clear suspension and steering issues. Rather than re-engineer everything, we kept pushing the body up farther and farther until it would fit.
It's on stilts.
Yeah, it is. And so the other day, this guy pulls up. This was yesterday, in fact. A guy pulls up with a 67 4x4 Mustang. And it was like, what? Two of these in the same time?
Oh, no.
Now, his had a bit of chic added to it because he has a Gatling gun on the hood of his.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been watching too much Mad Max.
Yeah, apparently so. The guy calls 2 hours later. He says, I want the car. Can I come get it?
Oh.
And so it's been for sale.
And Sarah's doing her happy dance, and it's
he made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
He made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But yeah, a little bit of let's see if we can get a little bit of the shifter linkage was choke cables. They pushed and pulled because the shifter is so far above the transmission that I couldn't get any linkage to work. It had to be this weird trapezoid thing. But yeah. That was back when she ran.
Oh, that's amazing. And but it's gone now. And I remember seeing it here. You've had it at the studio a number of times, and we've looked at that going, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and lately I know people that are collecting and storing old cars that are fighting the same issue. The modern gasoline was just a catastrophe on this thing. It melted everything. The gas tank at one time 30 years ago had been repaired with some of that stuff you slosh around inside. And it melted all that stuff out and started feeding it through the fuel system.
Yeah, it's the ethanol in the fuel.
Yeah, and I could not keep up with it. It was horrible. So
yeah, the easiest thing to do is just to start over. Build a whole new fuel system for it.
I eventually did.
Yes,
brand new pipes and everything, and
and that's why you don't see rubber lines in anything anymore. It's all plastic.
Yeah, it dries it out.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, anyway, the new owner, he already has that 351 powered 67 4-wheel drive Mustang. So
now he's got the convertible in the fastback.
That's right.
Bookends.
That's right, bookends, and he's going to have to sort of relearn how to drive because that one's powered by the 170 Bronco. So I think he's got about 1/10 the acceleration curve there.
Yeah, but he can pass a couple of gas stations.
Yeah, it's true. Assuming it keeps running that long.
That's true. Oh, that's the car-to-car you were talking about. Oh, now I understand more.
Actually, no. This one's a little... it's a Holly... I'm sorry, it's an Autolite 1100. So it's...
1100,
yeah, the little tiny one.
Little single barrel, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good carburetor, but only when it's not full of crap.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Jeff, latest project. What are you working on?
The Chevelle right now, just trying to put it back together. The issue is always just trying to keep your stuff running. You know, I've got three cars, but the last one probably was the little V8 S10. I just did a. California requires you to jump through all the legal hoops in order to do an engine swap. So we, in a fit of insanity, decided to put a 1990 TPI motor in this S10 because it had been done before and made it easy. So I just got it running. And so we're working through some cooling system issues, and the steering box has all of a sudden decided on the street to stop turning left. And so I got a new box that I got to stick in it, and
I hadn't thought about that. You're talking about newer motors because, you know, you can do an old motor swap and who cares?
Only on pre-emission cars.
Yeah. Right,
so in other words, for emission reasons, you can only do, that's a 1990 S10, so you can, the earliest engine you can put into is 1990.
Yeah.
So I fibbed a little bit, told him it was a 305, but it's really a 350. But it doesn't really matter. The emission controls are for a 305, and that's what they looked at. And so you have to take it to an actual vehicle inspection station that's a state-run inspection station. Yeah. And there's a story behind that car, too.
Yeah, well,
it's an amazing vehicle, Gary Kolofsky's car. So we went through in the first pass through, and the guy says, "You're one of 10." So we did our homework. So
that's good. That is amazing.
So let's talk about this thing.
Let's talk about this 57.
This is perhaps the baddest 57 in the world. Gary Kolofsky built a black blown 55 two-door sedan back in 1977. It was in Hot Rod magazine. At the time, I was blown away by that car. And he sold the car and it's disappeared and it's gone forever. But he built a really cool little two-door 55 that used it had a tilt front end on it. It was at the Carcraft Summer Nationals a couple of years ago, and the magazine did a feature on it. And I wrote the feature on it, and the editor handed me I had been doing something else during the show, so I had got a chance to see the show. So my first chance to see the car was the photographs, and he hands me the tech sheet, and I look at the name, and it's Gary Kolofsky. I know that guy. And so I called him up, and we talked about the car, and then he said, well, I really need to tell you about this thing. So it's a stock wheelbase 57 Chevy, but it's been moved forward something like 12 inches. And the reason he moved the axle, so everything, if you pan back, you can see that the wheelbase in the back has been pulled up forward as well. The reason he pulled the axle assembly forward is because this has not one V12, it has two V12s in it.
What?
It's a W24. two BMW V12s.
Holy
side by side. So think about it. Looking forward at it, it's a W motor.
Yeah.
W24. Now think about it for a minute. You now have 12 exhaust pipes coming out through the center of the engine. This thing is carbureted. It's not fuel injected. Those were fuel injected engines. This is carbureted. It's insane. Forgive me, I've forgotten the guy's name that is building the car for Gary. I apologize. I've forgotten his name. I should have done my homework before I came here. The chassis work on this thing is nothing short of phenomenal. Just to be able to package this thing. If you look at the hood, there are two. At the top, there's an opening, and there's also an opening at the front. Right. The front is for the carburetors. The center opening towards the back is to vent the heat from the headers.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't melt the carburetors and boil the fuel. And it's got a 700 R4 behind it, which forgive me, Gary, but I don't think it's going to live. But, that aside, it's got monster tires on it. It's down low. The shock absorbers in the rear suspension are up on top of the chassis. You can see them through the back window. It's just an amazing, amazing car. Perhaps one of the neatest features of this thing is the front end tilts forward. I wish I had some photos of it. But when it tilts, you know how the fender or the hood on a 57 Chevy rolls forward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now think about it. When you go to tilt that thing at the back, the nose is going to come down and crush into the grill.
And as well, I think the heels of the fenders down low might bang into the doors a little bit.
So he's machined this thing. He's built his own set of... there's a story just in the hood hinges. The hood slides forward and tilts it simultaneously. Generally what they'll do is they'll slide it forward and then tilt it up.
Sure. Right.
Well, he created a hinge that does both simultaneously. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. It's on hydraulic. It's on a hydraulic cylinder.
Oh, okay.
It's just astonishing. The fabrication work on this car you could write a book about this car and you still wouldn't be able to cover it all. It's just amazing. I've been working on it for like 2.5 years.
I'm looking at the front fender wells, the openings there, and you can see where that's been stretched.
Yes.
And how it goes right into the bumper.
Right.
But the rear, now you look at it and go, okay, that looks like an altered wheelbase car, all right.
But it's not. The wheelbase is
the wheelbase is stock. Just everything's
moved
shifted
forward. Right. And he needed to do that just to have the room to squeeze a very wide engine into that engine's bay.
Wow,
and a completely fabricated chassis. It's got funny car cages in it. I mean, it's beyond your wildest dreams. But he's going to drive it. I mean, the whole intent of this thing is to drive it. So, and I said, why the V12s, the BMW V12s? And apparently it's because they're a dime a dozen in the junkyard. Because what happens is the transmissions fail. And they're ridiculously expensive to rebuild, and so people just walk away from them. And so he says you can buy them for next to nothing. So he had 2 of them and said, well, let's do this.
Yeah. Well,
and next thing you know, he's got this an absolutely astonishing car.
Well, okay, Oldsmobile F85?
F85, 64 F85. I bought that car from a buddy of mine, Tim Moore, several years ago. He had put a 455 in it. It had a V6 in it originally. And then I bought it from him and rebuilt the motor. And we took it on a road trip last summer. And the fun story about this was we were going along just fine. Life was great and wonderful. John McGann from CarCraft was with me. We were doing a story for CarCraft and for Power Performance News. And so we're bopping along. We're now in Kansas, outside of McPherson, on a Sunday morning. This is Labor Day weekend last year. And I looked down, all of a sudden I looked down at the water temperature gauge, and it's moving to the right very rapidly. Something's wrong. And we started running up the little hill. The motor rattled. I had to give it a little bit of throttle to make the top of the hill, and it popped both head gaskets.
Jeez.
So, because Oldsmobile only has 10 head bolts per side. So, so here we are in the middle of Kansas on Labor Day Sunday, and so I called my good friend Bill Irwin, who I met in Votech school in 1972. He had just got out of I had just graduated high school, and he had just got out of the Navy, and we've been friends for years. And I called him up and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Fine." It's like 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm just sitting there reading the paper." And I said, "Well, I'm about to ruin your day." And he's about 7 hours from me.
Oh.
And I said, "I need you to come get me." He goes, "Okay, where are you?" And I said, "In Kansas." And there's this silence on the phone. And he just goes, "Okay." And only good friends will do that for you. And so I have the Premier AAA, so I got 222 miles closer to him, and he came down 5 hours is what it was his one-way trip. So 10 hours round trip on a Sunday, completely destroyed his Sunday of Labor Day weekend. And then we spent 2 days in the shop pulling the heads, putting head gaskets on it, putting it back together, and then sent John McGann on his way. And I stayed in Iowa, and it was actually being sold to a friend of ours, and a son of a friend of ours, and he now has it in Indianapolis.
Did you like the kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do like the kid. And he's had a great time with the car, and he's 16 years old. He's learning a lot of things, so it's wonderful. And I get phone calls from him every once in a while. Should I put fuel injection on? I said, no. Don't bother. Now,
this is
This is my El Camino, yeah.
I've always loved the flames on that.
We were putting Pete Santini did the flames on this thing. That was another magazine story. And let's do a story on painting flames. And the original plan was there was this guy, I won't mention his name because he flaked on me. He had this kit that you could do flames. We were going to paint the flames on my El Camino, show how to do it on your own. And the guy completely flaked on me. So I had this cover ready to shoot, in another month, and I needed something to happen. So I called my buddy Pete Santini, and I said, "Can you help us out?" And he grumbled, but he did it. And that was probably 15 years ago at least. And the car is spectacular. I love it. And so there we were putting fuel injection on it with a company called Phytech.
Oh, okay.
And then this is our little drag race car. Yep. And this has a 4.8 liter truck motor that we stuck in it, which is 293 inches. Now, when you run the thing at the track, it's not very impressive. It does like 220 60-foot times, but it runs 1340s at 105 normally aspirated. And we thought, wow, what would happen? This is at Irwindale. What would happen if we put a little shot of nitrous on this thing? So we hit it with a 150 shot, and it's run 1140s at 122. So the goal is to squeeze it a little bit harder. Now this is a 140,000 mile 4.8 liter truck motor, LS motor out of a 2000 3,000 truck. It doesn't even have headers on it. The car weighs about 3,500 with me in it, full of fuel. So it's heavy. Doesn't have a lot of gear in it. Doesn't have a lot of converter, which is why it's so slow, normally aspirated. And we've done like a 166, 60 foot so far, and it's capable of going into low 1.6s, maybe even a high 1.55s. And I put in, Lingenfelter makes a nitrous controller, so we hit it with like about 40% of nitrous on the starting line, and then stage it up to 100% over about 1 second, and that's how you get the car to launch. And that's cheating in essence. I mean, eventually I should be able to hit it with everything on the starting line, but I'm afraid if I do that, if I hit it with a 150 or 200 shot on the starting line with a stall speed of about 2,500, you're just going to push those cast pistons right into the bottom of the pan. So you kind of have to be judicious with the fast gas.
But you think about that for a second. That's telling you the integrity and the how useful the new LS motors are.
Oh, they're just phenomenal. And so this thing, it's a tiny little motor, so it makes no torque, but you get it up about 3,500, the cam comes on. It's got a 219 at 50 cam. It's a tiny little camshaft and a 750 carburetor. It's not even fuel injected, and it runs, and it's got a California Performance Transmission 204R in it, which is a wonderful overdrive trans. We drive the thing to the track and run it a bunch of times and drive it home.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Got the same trans in the back of my coupe.
Yeah.
All right, wait a minute. What's this?
Okay, quick story. This is when I was the editor of Hot Rod magazine, and most of the time, the Air Force and the Navy just get free ads for you. You get public service ads.
Sure.
And they were buying advertising in Hot Rod magazine. So they were saying, well, look, we're buying these ads. What else can you do for us? And my publisher said, well, why don't you take my editor up for a ride in an F-16?
Oh, what?
So this is the Thunderbirds. That's Captain Chris Chambliss. At this time, this was 1993, I think. Okay. So the guy to my left is Captain Chris Chambliss. He is now a lieutenant colonel. He runs oddly enough, he was on 60 Minutes about a year or so ago. He still lives in Vegas. He's still in the Air Force. He runs a squadron north of Las Vegas, but it's drones. They fly, quote unquote, the drones out of north of Las Vegas, a little base north of Las Vegas, and the drones are in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Holy moly.
And he's the squadron commander, CEO. Wow. Wonderful, wonderful ambassador for the Air Force. So took me up in this Thunderbird, this F-16. I'm in the back seat. I have a videotape that's literally stuck in my VCR. I need to get it out so I can get it converted to DVD, but I have a videotape of my ride. We were up for about 45 minutes. I got to pull 9 Gs in an F-16. It feels like a Volkswagen sitting on your chest because you weigh 9 times your normal weight. Just a phenomenal ride. So he took me for a great ride. In fact, I got back and these two guys on the outside, I unfortunately don't know their names, but they were the plane captains for this aircraft, and
flight crew guys. Yeah.
Flight crew guys. And then there was a separate staff sergeant who was kind of like my guide through this whole thing, make sure I don't go where I'm not supposed to go and do what I'm supposed to do. And she said he must really like you because we ran through the whole load of fuel. Because we were out doing aileron rolls and all kinds of fun stuff, and that's what we did on our 9G turn, and then that was fun. This is an old race car we did back in the 70s with some friends of mine, Bob Kreider and Tom Sorensen. Tom has since passed away, but it's just kind of fun. There was in essence a D Hot Rod Formula One car in AHRA, and all we did was brake parts, but it lived up to its name, Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun with that car. So it's still around. It's still that's a photo. It's only about 2 years old.
Wow.
And so it's kind of interesting that it's reversed now. Back in those days, I had no money, so I said, "Well, look, I'll help you work on the car, but I can't put any money into this thing." So they funded the whole thing, and now I'm funding parts for it, and I'm trying to get Bob off his derriere to work on the car.
All right, now this is a picture of your own homegrown shop.
This is my shop in my backyard. Yeah. So that's the blue 65 in the foreground with the front suspension and the motor and trans and everything out of it.
Yeah.
And then the car in the middle is the red 67 RS Camaro that I'm actually building for my friend Don Young.
Okay.
And then the El Camino on the other side. Yeah.
Look at all the engines sitting there.
The engines. Yeah. I do a lot of engine stuff for the magazine. So in the foreground is another 5.3 LS motor. That's with a little carburetor right there. You barely see it. And then the motor in the center is a tri-power Holley setup I just put on a small block that's a project for Street Rodder magazine. We are actually going up the dyno. As soon as I get home, I have to load those engines up in the back of my truck and go to West Tech tomorrow morning, be there at 7:30. And then on the far right over there, you can kind of see a little corner of a big block Chevy. That's a friend of mine, Eric Rosendahl, his 454 big block that I put a roller cam in it for him. We're going to dyno test that motor tomorrow too.
Well, I can see what you meant about you get a little more shop space and you fill it up.
You fill it up. So it's going to be nice just to get those engines up off the floor and get them on the back of the truck because that'll give me room to walk around in my shop. Because in order to get to anything, you have to move something else.
We've come to the top of the hour.
I don't know
where to go. I mean,
how did the time go by so fast?
Thank you very much for coming into the studio.
It was my pleasure.
Again, you got plenty of magazines that you can catch. Jeff's writing in CarCraft. You're still writing for freelance.
Yes, CarCraft, Hot Rod, and Street Rodder, and all those books too. Yeah.
That's cool. Bruce, what do you got planned for the weekend?
Well, you know what? I do a little more testing on that big fat house-sized Lincoln outside, which is actually now up and running. It's I don't know. I think there's some timing issues and stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm not attending any shows until that baby's running a little bit better. Maybe another week and a half or something. You'll see me somewhere blocking traffic.
All right, don't screw up your foot again this time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to be at tomorrow night. It is the cruise night at the NHRA Motorsports Museum, the Wally Parks Motorsports Museum. It's a free cruise night, guys, at the museum. Costs you $5 to get in to see the stuff in the museum, but it's well worth it. And then Saturday, I'm going to be down at the Steve McQueen show at the Boys Republic in Chino Hills. It is an amazing show. If you have the chance, come down. Proceeds going to the Boys Republic.
Let me guess, there's at least one Bullet Mustang that's going to show up.
There'll be hundreds of Bullet Mustangs showing up. But it's going to be a great show. It's going to be, you see Steve McQueen's son and grandson there, and they always do something to commemorate a movie that Steve McQueen was in.
Yeah. Hey, that's great stuff. Well, that's going to be fun. And, of course, we know Jeff's going to be at the engine shop in the morning.
Yes, I'll be dyno testing tomorrow at West Tech. So.
Dyno time.
If you listen, you'll be able to hear those motors sing at about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Nice.
All right. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce?
I'll take it from there briefly because what we got to do now is jump back onto the encore presentation of tonight's show. Thanks so much for joining us, and we're back 1 week from right now right here at SpeedSceneLive.com.
Speed Scene Live TV, the #1 online motorsports TV show. Brought to you by Curry Racing Rear Ends, M&H Tires, Hedman Hustler Headers, Aeromotive Fuel Systems, and TheBoat.com.